The Warrior's Apprentice. Presentation by Ramona Armstrong. Please forgive the robot voice. My mic is really bad quality. My roommates are also being obnoxious, so the sound quality will be better this way. The main character of this book is Miles Vorkasugan. To be honest, I am not really sure how that is supposed to be pronounced. Miles is an incredibly smart 17-year-old who is the son of one of the most important counts on the planet Bar-Air. His bodyguard since before he was born is called Bothary, an extremely skilled fighter and uptight military man. Elena is Bothary's daughter and Miles' best friend. Other important characters in the story are the pilot, Ard, and the engineer, Bazik, who goes by Baz. It is important to know that Miles' grandfather is one of the most important war heroes of their time. He led the planet's military against invaders to their planet, who had much more advanced technology. His war strategies eventually led them to victory. Miles' father is also a war hero who helped the current young emperor, Gregory, by standing in his emperor region until Gregory was old enough to be crowned. His mother is from the planet called Beta Colony. While she was pregnant with Miles, they were attacked by an assassin, who threw poison gas through their window. Even though she and the baby survived, the antidote to the poison that saved their lives also caused Miles to be born deformed. He has very fragile bones, and has a normal-sized head but small legs and a crooked spine. His planet is prejudiced against birth deformities due to 400 years of inbreeding while they were isolated from outsiders. His own grandfather tried to kill him as an infant. Despite his handicaps, Miles desperately wants to live up to his family's name and join the military. We start the story off with Miles starting the physical exam for the military entrance. He ends up breaking both of his legs while trying to climb a wall, and his dreams are crushed. After he returns home, his grandfather tells him it isn't his fault, and that he forgives him. He dies later that night, passing the title of Count Vorkasugan to his son. Depressed by his recent failure and feeling guilty that he may have contributed to his grandfather's death, Miles decides to visit his grandmother on Beta Colony, along with his bodyguard and his friend Elena. When they get to Beta Colony, as they are walking around outside of the spaceport, Miles hears the story of a pilot named Ard, who is a bomb and is refusing to leave his ship. It is the last ship of its kind, and the implants that are in his brain that allow him to pilot the ship through wormholes will not work for other ships. Miles feels sorry for the pilot, and on a whim, decides to help him out. He ends up buying his ship from the company that owns it, and hires Ard as his pilot. In doing this, Ard gains his diplomatic immunity and cannot be charged for the bomb threat. When he gets to his grandmother's house after all that, she tells him about a man. Nobody knows who the man is, and Miles gets curious, so he goes to check him out. It turns out that the man is from Miles' planet, and is a military deserter. He is also, conveniently, a ship engineer. Miles hires him to give him a second chance. However, now Miles is in a lot of debt, and he needs to earn some money. Miles finds a man named Dom, who is offering a good sum of money to take some supplies to a planet. The planet is in the middle of a civil war, and the cargo is actually disguised weapons. Miles agrees to take the job, much to the dismay of his bodyguard. At this point, Miles has not revealed his identity to his new employees. He tells Dom that he's part of the Dendari mercenaries, which is a name he makes up on the spot. To be honest, most of the things Miles does and says is made up as he goes. Dom tells him that the wormhole to enter his planet's airspace is being blocked by a mercenary group called the Oserons, who were hired by the rival group on his planet called the Pelians. They will have to bluff their way past the mercenaries, which is why the weapons are disguised. Whenever they get to the blockade, they find out that the mercenaries that are assigned to the wormhole demand a hostage from the crew, to make sure that they don't do anything they aren't supposed to on the planet, such as deliver secret weapons. The captain of the ship tries to take Elena hostage, and they end up having to knock out the entire mercenary crew and take them hostage instead. Now they have control of one of the mercenary ships. They also have around 50 hostages, which is very bad for them, because there are only 6 of Miles's crew. To save his friends, Miles comes up with a story. He tells the mercenaries that he works for another mercenary group. the Dendari mercenaries. He tells them that he is taking over their contracts and that they now work for him. As it turns out, Miles is a very convincing actor, and the entire crew buys it. He now has a new alter ego. As they go to land on the planet and finally deliver the hidden weapons, Miles realizes that they are about to be ambushed. Another part of the Oseran mercenaries has taken over that port, and Miles uses his new crew members to defeat them and ends up with more hostages. However, in the process, his ship gets damaged, which means his pilot is useless until they get it fixed. But, until they get the money they were supposed to get for delivering the weapons, Miles can't afford to fix the ship and get back home. Now he is stuck in his role as Admiral Nesmith. One of the hostages is an old war veteran named Tong, who Miles decides he wants to hire to help run his new fake mercenary group. He tries to hire all of the hostages as part of his crew, but some of them, including Tong, end up escaping. But Tong's boss Oser, the man who runs the entire Oseran mercenary fleet, humiliates him over his loss. Angry, Tong returns to join the Dendaris. With Tong on his side, all of the mercenaries are recruited to the Dendaris. Miles starts to get very nervous, because he's starting to gain many crew members, and he has no actual money to pay these people who think he is really an admiral. He realizes that he may be getting himself in trouble that he can't get out of. As it turns out, Tong had taken the people who owe Miles the money hostage, and now they are released. Miles finally gets paid. But the money they pay him with is worthless on any planet outside of this one. So even though he is paid, he cannot actually use it to fix his ship or his problems. One of the people who is also held hostage turns out to be Elena's birth mother. We find out that Elena's father, Bothary, was a war criminal and raped Elena's mother during torture. Her mother ends up shooting Bothary after revealing this. Elena is devastated along with Miles. They now have to find a way to get Bothary's body back home, but Elena now hates her father. Desperate for money he can actually use, Miles comes up with a plan after a few weeks. He uses his mercenaries to start capturing the money that the Pelians are sending to pay their mercenaries. He is officially now a space pirate. However, his medical issues catch up with him, and he ends up bedridden. During this time, his cousin Ivan shows up with a message that his family thinks he is missing, and that there is a rumor on their planet that Miles is building an illegal secret army to attack Emperor Gregory with. Oser finally gets tired of not getting paid and getting beaten by Miles' strategies. He decides to join Miles instead of fighting him. Sounds great, right? Only, Miles now has a real fleet of mercenary ships, who think that he is an actual admiral, making the accusations on his home planet seem more real. Miles also finds out that Elena and his engineer, Baz, have fallen in love. He ends up marrying them in place of her father. Ivan tells Miles that he is to go stand trial against the accusations at home. Now that he has actual money from Oseran working ships, Miles pays everybody that he owes money to, sets up Elena, Baz, Tong, and Oser in charge of his mercenaries, and leaves to go home. Because he is being charged with treason, if he loses the court battle, he will be executed. He doesn't tell his friends about this though. When he arrives at the court, he finds his father's enemies telling the Emperor about his mercenaries, and convincing the court to charge Miles with treason. However, when Miles shows up, he does his usual trick of talking and finessing his way out of trouble. He even ends up offering his fleet to the Emperor as a private army. The Emperor likes this idea, and takes the mercenaries off of Miles's hands. He even offers Miles a chance at his dream again. He can join the military as an officer. Miles happily goes from admiral to officer in training. Lois McMaster Bujold is a very famous American science fiction author. She has won 7 Hugo Awards, 3 Nebula Awards, and has also received the Skylark and 4 awards. Her work fits into 3 different book series, but the most famous is the Vorkosigan series. She is known for her creative storytelling and space adventures. The first theme we talked about that comes to mind in this story is the Voyage Extraordinaire. Miles spends most of the book on one long adventure to make it back home, tackling numerous roadblocks along the way. The next, possibly more obvious theme, is the spaceships and space travel to different planets. We read many stories about space travel, especially during the first part of the semester. The last thing I want to talk about is something I didn't describe in detail earlier. The pilots get implants in their brains that allows them to guide the spaceships through wormholes. The pilot, Ard, describes it as seeing the world in swirling colors while the ship is traveling. This reminded me of a story that we talked about in class but didn't read, Neuromancer.